Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. And our top stories today, 3D printing can be used by NASA for long-term space exploration, and a new app is helping resurrect loved ones. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Daniel Klein. He's lead advisor and executive producer for 7 Investing. Dan, great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you, Jeff.
So NASA lands a SUV-sized rover on Mars. That's Surveyor or Perseverance, I'm sorry. And amazing feat of mankind to get something that large to travel the distance that it has. But NASA is also using 3D printing on the International Space Station. And I immediately thought of you, Dan. So what do you have to say about all this amazing technology and how it's being deployed?
So 3D printing and 3D scanning are going to be essential to any sort of colonization of other planets. And if you look at what Jeff Bezos is doing with Blue Origin, his space company that's focused on colonizing other worlds, it ties into a lot what Amazon is doing with 3D printing. So Amazon has patents on a truck full of 3D printers that will drive around. And let's say, Jeff, a piece breaks on your washing machine. That happens. Well, a technician comes out and the technician goes, yep, I got to order this from Whirlpool. It's going to take 4 months because it's out of stock. Well, imagine if the Amazon technician could just look it up in the computer and print one, and everything gets done in one. Now take that to Mars. So you're on Mars, your space combobulator breaks, whatever thing you're using, and it takes a long time to get a part from Earth. We saw this when Matt Damon got stuck on Mars in that movie, which didn't really happen. That's not a true story.
The Martian. Great movie.
Yeah,
I've seen it a gazillion times, by the way.
It's on now. It's on at all times. But it's like Shawshank Redemption, and it's in the amount of times it's on. But that being said, if you have a 3D printer and a piece of your microwave breaks while you're in space, all you have to do is find the blueprints for that. Even if you don't have it, Earth can send you that data and you could print it and be back up and running. That, to me, is going to be the foundation of space. You're not going to bring 36 coffee mugs for your crew of space travelers for when they arrive. You're going to print out. So all you're going to bring is raw material. And when you get to wherever you're going, be it Mars or whatever else it might be, you're going to figure out how to make that raw material. So instead of having to make all these different things, you're just going to have to find whatever material goes into your 3D printer. That's one piece of it. The 3D scanning piece was really interesting. They scanned a plant. It was some sort of grain. So they scanned the plant and they figured out what the most efficient version of that plant was in terms of having a higher crop yield. Well, that could be important in space where you're going to have limited water, limited ability to grow stuff. It's also important here on Earth where, if you're trying to feed the most people and you can pick stalks of a plant to grow that you might actually be duplicating on a 3D printer from 3D scanning technology, you can feed 20% more people from the same amount of plant in the same amount of space. So this is baby steps. I mean, look, 3D printing has largely been a novelty. It's you buy a 3D printer and you print a mug with Garfield's face on it and you're like, hey, look, I made a mug. That's not the future of 3D printing. The future of 3D printing is very much going to be, manufacturing parts, making things in situations where you don't know what you're going to need. And I actually do think the space world is going to lead us forward in that space.
Dan, let's talk about recycling, though, because I feel like there's a recycling element of this. Like, say, you don't necessarily have to have all the raw material at your location either, or bring it with you. You can recycle plastics, right? A lot of the 3D printers use plastics and other types of synthetic materials to create these parts. So what I'm thinking is, not only could this be deployed on Mars or wherever else, Europa or wherever else, planet, maybe Europa or Titan, if you wear a cool suit and can breathe. But we can also use this here on Earth. If you can take plastics, recycle them, and then dump them back into the 3D printer, man, I'm thinking the net zero carbon effect of that would be pretty impressive.
I don't think it's crazy to think that on a commercial level, we might be dumping milk cartons or other, plastic things into a big machine and they're churning out parts. Obviously, we're already recycling many of those things, but if it becomes more of just like load this stuff in, it processes it through the machine, and it comes out the other side, viable things that we need, I think we're moving to that world. And again, that's going to be essential when you go to space, when you have a limited amount of raw material. Obviously, different planets, you're going to be able to mine certain things and find certain items that you need. You might not easily be able to make plastic. You might not find rubber or whatever else it is. So you might have to reuse every little bit of that. What becomes valuable depends a lot on your environment. So, here on Earth, why is gold valuable? Why are diamonds valuable? Because they're scarce and pretty. Well, those things may not be all that valuable. You might find a planet full of diamonds. If you don't need, diamond saws, that's not as valuable as necessarily other minerals, other things you can use in construction. So yeah, I think we're at like the first inning of a very long game when it comes to this.
And according to what I was reading and doing research for the show, Dan, these 3D printing, it can be very complex electronics. It doesn't just have to be, here's a little widget that connects to your dryer, or here's a little widget that goes on your coffee cup. They are actually making today sensors for the International Space Station, thousands of miles above the Earth. So that just shows the level of complexity that these systems are able to perform, and thinking with a little bit of artificial intelligence, more learning, advanced learning skills through AI, you could actually create circuit boards and things like maybe even eventually little robots.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the next generation of this. And it's really about figuring out, how to get the plans in there. I have some experience with CNC manufacturing, and that's when you put in a raw material and you program what you want it to make, and it will tell you, oh, hey, like there's this much excess, you can make this or that with that excess, and it's very, very efficient. But somebody had to sit down and put in essentially the blueprint for what it is you're making. That's how it works with 3D printing, Jeff. If you wanted to 3D print a tennis racket, well, that's possible, but you'd have to go someplace that had the recipe, the blueprint for that tennis racket. You'd have to put the right raw materials in your 3D printer. You'd need a pretty big 3D printer to do that as well. Most of the home-based ones probably couldn't do a tennis racket, but maybe you could print a baseball, or maybe you could print a collectible card, or whatever it might be. Eventually, will 3D printers be printing cars? Maybe. I think that could happen going in the future.
Maybe they'll be printing non-fungible tokens, Dan. Just kidding. We're going to take a very quick, I'm alluding back to the show we did on Sunday. Just a little bit of a joke. If you listened, great. If not, check it out. Dan, I want to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about an app that is going viral that has some parents in a tizzy. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score, a credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Daniel Klein of 7 Investing. Dan, thanks so much as always for staying with us this morning.
Thanks for keeping me.
I want to have fun in this second segment. We had a great, by the way, the first segment, really cool. I love when we talk about new technology, and I love thinking about going to Mars. Maybe not personally, but human beings going to Mars. Dan, let's have some fun because there's a photo app that we've talked about before. I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago on the podcast, but apparently it's just going crazy where it actually can age you. They're using almost like deep fake technology to age you. But I wanted to get your sense for what this is and why are people going crazy about it?
So I've seen a couple of different versions of this. I've seen one where you could take still photos of, let's say, your ancestors, and it animates them. And there seems to be a fascination with that. I don't really get it. I also personally, if you want to see what you look like aged, then wait. Like I'm not entirely sure. I need to know what that fate is going to be. And I'm sort of hoping we have some good serums and creams and stuff. But people love playing with this, and I don't know if it's an identity fascination or there's definitely some do I look like grandma kind of thing, and I don't know, like I maybe it's because I come from a family where I've known 5 generations, at least on my father's side. I don't sort of feel like a nostalgia for ancestors that because I guess I knew some of my ancestors, so I got to hear them. I get why people would do it, but I don't know, Jeff, like this. Seeing me 30 years older and going like, oh, I look like my grandfather, like that doesn't have any appeal to me. Sorry to throw rain on this. This is of course vodka in my mug, so being a bit of a downer. It's not. It's water.
I'm not. I think you're entitled to your opinion, and I think it's an interesting opinion. There was some research done many years ago by some behavioral finance experts, and one of the things they developed was an aging tool. Similar to what we're talking about here, not as technically proficient, not as well thought out probably, and didn't use the latest technology. But the thought was that to get you to think about your future self. So the Dan Klein, not at age 40-something, but at Dan Klein at age 60-something, would trigger you to think about saving for retirement. Really interesting concept.
That's an interesting idea. And I do think if you pair this type of technology with some knowledge of your lifestyle choices, so it could show you, hey, here's the difference of what you look like if you go to the gym 3 times a week or take a walk 5 days a week or whatever it is. I think that might be a useful tool. But I found that did you see the picture Tom Brady put out of old Tom Brady and old Drew Brees during the Super Bowl? And basically, or before the Super Bowl, basically it was a very flattering old Tom Brady, like basically a little grayer, a little wrinklier, but still pretty dashing. I feel like that's what these apps are doing. Like instead of showing you maybe don't eat 5 meals a week at Wendy's. That's not a good choice. Here's what you're gonna look like in 10 years if you do that. But hey, if you start making some healthier choices, maybe replace that cheeseburger with some sushi, you're going to look this much better. And if you work out, this is going to be better. I do think we're getting to the point. We've talked about this a lot with the various watches and health apps and all the different things you can track, where you're really going to have some sense. With retirement, I can sit down with you and show if you put this much money in your retirement account, it appreciates by the normal 9% that the money invested in the stock market goes up in an average year. So no outlandish returns, no outlandish losses. That's not a guarantee. It's just roughly what happens over time. I can show you the picture of putting away $1,000 a year versus putting away $10,000 a year. If we could do that with our health and our appearance, I do think people would care more. If it was like, okay, don't spend as much time in the sun in your 20s and you won't look like a leather bag in your 40s, and we can actually show you the difference of that, I do think that would get interesting. Doing it as a novelty to me is no different than, remember when you could go to the mall and like get your picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated? Like, it's that until you actually tie some real, life advice into it.
Yeah, and so I was on FaceTime with my mom because I haven't seen my mom in person in a long time because of the pandemic. And I noticed on the FaceTime app that you can do like different faces and emojis and things. So we literally spent time together. Sorry, Mom. Changing the frame to like black and white, or to a cartoon, or putting a poop emoji. These are the things that kind of amuse us. But I do agree that is very novel, and I'm just thinking that there's great technology. It can be used for a lot of things, and how can we use it to kind of inform ourselves about that we have to be aware of ourselves for the future? You know what I mean? Like whether it's saving, whether it's keeping in shape, whether it's being a parent, right? This technology can serve an even more vital purpose.
I would love to see predictive technology where you could literally, I go to a personal trainer twice a week. Before the pandemic, 3 times a week, but there's some added cost in going right now. So imagine if I could sit down with my trainer and we go through my diet and my exercise routine, and he says to me, okay, with what you're doing, here's what your progress will look like, and it's slow. And then he says, well, if you made this change to your diet, maybe dropped, this one takeout meal you get a week that's not great for you, and replaced it with something you like that's healthier, you'll get there that much faster. And if you added 2 miles of walking on non-workout days, this is what will happen. And if you could see it and your actual progress tracks to that, that would be meaningful. And if you say you're doing it and your progress doesn't track to that, well, you could start looking at, are there biological reasons that are wrong? Am I cheating and not telling my trainer about it, which is probably the answer? Or do you need to shake things up? Jeff, I found a few months ago that because even though I was still working out, I wasn't moving that much. And I went from being down about 20 pounds to, putting about 10 pounds back on. And as much as there's still weight to lose, that 10 pounds washed away when I started going back to getting 6,000 to 8,000 steps in addition to my workouts. And so little things matter. And if you could use technology that could really show you what those differences are, it is really hard when it comes to our health to be like, if I do all these things 2 years from now, I'll look 4% better. So it's definitely easier to track if you can sort of see what you're working for. And that's kind of easy to do with retirement. That is not easy to do with our health. Like, I know I track my heartbeat on my phone, and it's a very measurable thing. And my goal is to have my resting heart rate in the 60s when it was, 80 when I first started. And I'm there most days, but I can see how like caffeine affects it or stress affects it and things like that. We're going to have more and more data. And I do worry about paralysis by analysis, where you have so much data, you just want to like curl up under the bed because it feels like you're going to die because of all the things you could see. But yeah, I do think there is some opportunity to take this novelty technology and use it in practical ways.
Yeah, that instant gratification, that's a hard feeling or thought to get out of your head, regardless of your age. Dan Klein, always a pleasure chatting with you. I love the different technology talk we have each and every week, twice a week, of course, on the podcast. Great talking with you. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
We'll see you soon, Jeff.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more all in one place, check out our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, and our website. We're back again tomorrow, so until then, I'm Joe Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.